Cool, you ready?
Yes, very much.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nici from The Leap, and in this episode of Growth Tactics, I am here with Jacob from HollyHires to learn all about the platform. Thanks for coming in.
No, with pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with a bit about you rather than HollyHires. Like, I've never met a Forbes 30 under 30 before, so I'm very excited.
No, very pleased to be here, and I don't think that's the most interesting about me, but glad to be the first.
Were you listed because of HollyHires, like what you've done there, or how did it come about?
No, so prior to joining, let's say, the startup ecosystem and the recruitment space, I was active in venture capital.
Okay.
Investing in early stage startups. A very privileged job. Like you get to meet fascinating founders on a daily basis. And invest in the very best among them. So I was investing tickets $200,000 to $2.5 million, euros, roughly the same nowadays. And it's in that capacity that I got to sit on a lot of panels, meet a lot of great people, and I was doing some things to help drive, let's say, the diversity in the space, and that's how I managed to make that list. To be fair, it's also like quite some, let's say, self-promotion that goes into that, but it does help in increasing my conversion rates on LinkedIn.
Yeah, how did you get into that role?
in the venture capital side of things, yeah.
That sounds like a dream job.
It is. It was. After a while, though, but okay, that's the negative. How did I get into that? Mainly because I was always fascinated by startups and the startup space. When I was young, I read Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1. That's when I realized, like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. Early on, you feel like you can't do it yet and that you don't have the skills yet, you don't have the network yet. So I tried to do the next best thing. Instead of starting a company myself, I joined an early stage startup. And after a while, figured out that it was very important to know enough people in the space. So I started going to pizza parties and networking events, and that way met a lot of founders. And after a while, if you know a lot of founders, that becomes an asset for venture capitalists because that is what they do on a daily basis. And after a while, I met some VCs that then were hiring, and that one thing led to another. And that was back in Paris for a French fund called Partech. Yeah, a privilege of a job. But after a while, it felt like I was advising great people and backing great people doing amazing things. But yeah, you're always kind of on the sidelines. You are not the one building things. You can offer your thoughts, give the money, which obviously enables to do a lot. But you're not writing a story of your own, and that's what I set out to do from the get-go. And after a couple of years, was like, okay, now I either make a decision, I commit to building a career in venture capital, or I follow my passions and start a business, which I did together with my co-founder Boris, who's also Belgian. He also was working in the talent space prior, and we got started together from there.
Okay, so you went straight from that role into HollyHires?
Yeah, into company building, yes.
So how did the idea come about?
Yeah, that's a journey, right? Initially, like hiring is I think a lot of entrepreneurs identify that the talent space is a gnarly big problem ready to be solved. Once you dive into it, you learn how multifaceted, how complex it is. First, we're building a marketplace where on one side we had freelance recruiters and on the other side companies looking to hire. And what we would do is quality control in the middle, and then momentum building on both sides, right? Finding more freelance recruiters that would work for us and finding more clients that were looking for talent. That was interesting. We had some geographic arbitrage going on where we had a lot of people from South Asia, like a lot of Indian people working on the platform and a lot of South American people working for the platform. And yeah, they were willing to work really, really hard for an amount that maybe a Western recruiter would not work as hard for, which created this momentum. We had a lot of candidates really quickly flowing through the system. After a while, we had so many candidates on a daily basis for a customer base that we needed to invest in that quality control and not only hire people to do the quality control, but look into technology. And it's then that we started experimenting with large language models and what they could do to try and help, let's say, lighten the burden of the recruiters that on a daily basis were checking the applications that were coming through. And it was only after, let's say, 5 to 6 weeks of building with large language models, because we are technologists and products people first, that we realized that this technology was not only going to change our own business, but that it would help reshape the entire industry that we're part of. And with that realization, we said like, okay, change is going to come very quickly for this industry, and we can wait for other people to do it, or we can be the change we anticipate coming. And that's how we started building, let's say, AI solutions in the talent space for talent acquisition. And that's when we started building Holly. We sadly parted ways with our recruiter community, found a new home for them on a similar platform. Our customers, even though there were some leading brands, like globally recognized brands in the niche we were operating in, we took them on the journey. It took a while to build the product. So yeah, we had to, let's say, lay low for a couple of months to focus on product development. But that's how we got started with Holly as she stands today.
I love it how it's she, like, it's got like a nice identity for it. So the original concept was freelance recruiters working for sometimes large companies, I guess a mix, filling roles that they didn't have capacity to fill in-house.
Yeah.
And then through the tech development, you realised, so which bit were you trying to replace? Was it like the screening?
Yeah, the outreach and screening.
Outreach and screening, yeah.
Basically, like on the marketplace, it was basically you had a lot of people that would just identify candidates, engage with candidates, bring them in, make sure that they met the criteria, and send that through. We would then do quality control, further vetting, saying like, no, these candidates are actually not what the client is looking for. And then the ones that did meet the criteria were prioritized towards the candidates so that they would have a funnel of candidates ready to be interviewed. And then with Holly right now, we focused on that top of funnel as well, like identification, both, let's say, through like email, but also through LinkedIn. We can get into that on a demo later. And then making sure candidates meet all the criteria that they like meet. It can go simple things that normally fit relatively easily in a Boolean, like location, years of experience. But thanks to today's technology, we can also capture things that are much harder to explain. Like, for instance, if you say somebody needs to have worked on beautiful products before, like that is not an easy thing. Like if you tell a recruiter that, they will understand that, what the person actually means is like most likely more consumer products and brands that are known for shipping aesthetically pleasing products. I'm thinking now products like Revolut, or like where people identify like, strong brands, like nice looking products. And it's really hard to capture that in a Boolean, right? You could try and imagine a way of doing that, but with today's technology, thanks to large language models, like Holly understands that, and she herself can come up with strategies to capture that and can assess it when reviewing a resume.
So what sort of users do you have now then on the platform? So is it the same type of customers still using it, like direct employers, or what sort of companies are your customers?
No, it was actually really interesting. So initially we started on the marketplace model, and that was more 2 years ago, right? We had direct customers looking for talent, but then really quickly, as we started building the automations, our strongest customers became staffing and recruitment companies. Why? Because hiring for them is their bread and butter. They, for them, thinking about AI and automation is the first thing they do. Like that is, I guess, also like your community are thinking about that. These are the strategic discussions. Your average CEO of a large company does not lie awake at night thinking about how can I make my HR or my talent acquisition slightly more effective, right? So they might be slightly worried about the bills that they have to pay, but hey, that's a separate discussion. So relatively quickly, our biggest customers where we saw the most success were staffing and recruitment firms. And after a while, we just said like, hey, once you find something that works, we just double down on that. So now today, our customers are actually staffing and recruitment companies, most of them a lot of them in the US, but also a couple in the UK.
I remember that's how I came across you, wasn't it? Because ChatGPT kindly told me that you were one of the fastest growing and like ones to watch over
that's
there.
cool.
So
like ChatGPT knows things, so
it does.
I'm very
it's
happy.
all knowing, yeah, that's for sure. So did you mean to like launch in the US first? Was that intentional? Or was it just where you got some traction to begin with?
Yeah, the US is a very sophisticated software buying market. So I'm less strongly opinionated, let's say, when it comes to the UK versus the US. I know that, for instance, my native country, Belgium, obviously only a couple kilometers away from London, we are always 5 years behind the US. So,
you can say that maybe because you're from there.
Yeah, I could say that. Yeah, so if you want people to, let's say, to innovate, then yeah, America is just the place, or the best place to be, I would argue. I also feel that in the agency owners, they, when going to recruitment and staffing conferences, and you talk to business leaders there and business owners, they know that it's either eat or be eaten, right? Stay ahead or become irrelevant. So yeah, they identified that correctly, I think, and are trying to do everything within their possibilities to stay relevant. And yeah, that means moving along, right? And progressing and taking up new bets. And that's what we do. Sometimes I feel a bit like we're the outside, the out of house R&D division of some of these staffing firms, which is a really interesting position to be. Not always as not always as fun, but hey, we're here to solve problems.
So when a recruitment company, agency owner, comes to you, what sort of problem are they typically trying to solve?
Yeah, it's not, they don't come with hey, my foot is broken, can you help it heal, right? What they come with is hey, I feel like I'm an athlete already, I already run marathons, but in order to stay relevant, I need to run faster. So the argument there is very often just one of productivity, doing more with less. I feel like that is something that is that the entire industry is top of mind there. So what we help them do is just do more with significantly less resources. The idea is okay, if you sit on a database of candidates, most of the staffing and recruitment companies that we work with have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of records in a database, and everybody believes that data is the new oil. But then if you ask them hey, how useful is this data? Then they will tell you very useful. And then one question is how many placements do you make because you contacted people from your database again? And then you look at the stats and it's less than 5%. And you're okay, this is actually not that relevant, right? You believe that this is super valuable, but it's not to you. So let's say leveraging existing data is one of the problems that they're looking to solve. And obviously AI is just better at dealing with large scale data than humans are. Then recruiters only have so many hours in a day and need to work consecutively, right? They're serial, we can only have one phone call at a time with somebody. If you want to streamline your agency, then ideally you have your human interactions only be a premium service, right? Where only once the vetting is properly done, that then a human comes in the loop. Which means that it's a shame to have people on calls just to ask 3 basic questions, do you have a driver's license? Do you have check whether somebody indeed is the person they say on their resume? Those are the types of things where you don't want to be spending time. So what we offer there is basically signal from noise in a very cost-effective way. We can have those pre-screening, either vetting without interaction with the candidate, but also through phone calls, making sure that candidates are who they are and that they indeed meet what you're looking for without you having to spend human resources on that. And that just allows you to, let's say, your recruiters to have faster placements and deal with less candidates that are irrelevant.
So do you still think there is value in building a database as a recruitment company?
That's an interesting one. I think I obviously we think really or try and think really far ahead, and sometimes things don't move as fast as I would want them to, right? I believe that the world is moving to an agent to agent world in which not only AI will come for companies, because that is the doctrine, right? Staffing and recruitment leaders, everybody's thinking how can I increase my productivity? What tends to be forgotten is that candidates also use AI, and that for them they will also try and optimize, and there will even be companies and products out there that optimize things for them as well. So what I anticipate is that Well, companies will have an AI agent that is an AI recruiter whose optimization function it is to try and build talent funnels for them and making sure that your company is always adequately staffed. And on the flip side, you'll have candidate agents. It's basically, you can think of it as an AI recruiter, but then for candidates. We were jokingly saying before we got started with this position that like, yeah, recruitment is sales. Like, I believe that like great recruiters can actually also be those career coaches, right? If you can imagine having a career coach that helps you filter the signal from noise as a candidate, saying like, these are the interesting opportunities that you should be talking with. These are the companies that have a new opportunity open up where you'd be a great fit. Are you willing to entertain this? Yes or no? I know you're at a great spot right now, but like, would you be open? Yes, no. That agent will be able to like interface with the agents of the companies, or whether it's recruitment companies or companies directly. Like, my bet would be down the line it will be the end customer directly, but initially like a lot of the innovation is still pushed through intermediaries. And there, these agents will figure out like, okay, is your candidate looking for somebody? And then the flip side, is your company looking for somebody? Is this candidate and this job a match? If so, let's escalate it to our respective humans. And then obviously on one side, the human is the candidate. On the other side, the human is the company. And there, if you imagine a system in which you can do that at large scale, there's almost no real value in building a database of candidates, because the real value lies in having a deep understanding of what people really want. And the real value only becomes present if that data is continuously updated. So building a database, yes, but only if you can do it through continuous engagement. And there, if you're a really strong brand, and maybe some of your listeners out here have like have super strong brands where like candidates know and trust and want to work with you, then yeah, investing in technology so that you have a continuous relationship with candidates, then yes, there might be value in that. My bet though would be that the only ones that might succeed in that are like the giants, like in this world, and that there probably be innovative companies that build the next generation LinkedIn, where like that engagement is continuous, and you are like in a privacy preserving way, like shielding off certain things while providing opportunities for both candidates and companies. So very long-winded answer to say that I'm not sure whether like having a database in the longer term will be a strategic asset still. Is it today? Yes, because even if you just think about GDPR, like having them in your database gives you the right to contact them on the European continent at least. So that in itself is worth a lot.
I like the idea of the agent to agent. It's an interesting concept, but once you put it like that, it doesn't seem that far-fetched, really. Like, I can imagine that being a concept. With candidates now, they're increasingly turning to AI, aren't they, to support them with elements of an application. So why not have your agent constantly scanning the market for you? Are you planning to introduce said agent to dominate?
We're definitely working on that. Like, so Holly sits on the company side. Holly is an AI recruiter. And yeah, we're working on the flip side as well.
Is that Trevor? I saw Trevor on your website.
No, it's Hunter.
Yeah. Hunter. Trevor.
Hunter, Trevor.
Maybe invent Trevor for me.
No, it is, because indeed, like as you say, we see agents. Candidates use AI, right? Thinking that they don't is just does not make sense.
Yeah.
They use ChatGPT to write cover letters if you still ask for them. I wouldn't advise doing that, but okay. People are still use one-click 500 application tools. There's tools out there that use browser automations to make sure that they just apply with zero effort. And that is actually a problem that a lot of my clients have, right? They spend more time and resources on reviewing your application than the candidate did submitting it, which is obviously like a loss-making function, because the signal that you have from an application has gone down. And that is because the incentive are kind of skewed or screwed. Like we have we have LinkedIn, like all these platforms, LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, like everybody optimizes for candidate flux and applications. So that's the only thing they optimize for, right? So they say that they want to do quality applications, but in the end, like it's just like, here are 1,000 applicants, right? Which is why they develop like one-click application buttons and making it super easy to apply. A lot of my customers in the staffing and recruitment will complain about totally irrelevant candidates on LinkedIn, totally irrelevant candidates on other platforms, and that, yeah, it's expensive and demotivating to having to sift through thousands of applications to then find somebody that might be a good fit, call them, try and get in touch with them, and hear like, you know what? No, this is not really what I'm looking for anyway. So like, no, I won't interact with you further. Yeah, it's a lot of wasted time especially on the recruitment agency's end.
So with Holly, then, how does she work? What does she do?
Yeah, we like Holly as she exists today is like we're trying to provide you with ready to interview candidates in an automated way. And we have, let's say, one of two ways that we can do that. Either you let us do that for you, but the way that we most of the time work with a lot of staffing and recruitment companies is by allowing them to connect their channels. Because recruitment, how you normally go about building funnel is either you do job publishing and you play on certain platforms where you invest money to be able to get noticed and get inbound applications. Or you do outbound, where like a lot of, I'm assuming, especially like when end clients come to recruitment companies, that tends to be for harder to fill positions because they don't have the brand or don't have the access to the right talent to be able to do that. So they want you to do the laborious task of trying to surface opportunities to a lot of people. And that tends to happen either over LinkedIn or over email. That job is very laborious. If you want to do that, ideally you do it in a multi-touch point way, where you reach out to a candidate that you correctly identify, and then you drop them a connection request, or you drop them an email. A couple of days later, you drop them another email, and then you follow up again. Those are the types of things that, if you have to do that manually for 500 candidates, that's a lot of work. So what we basically do with Holly is we automatically instrument all that. We let you connect your channels and your LinkedIn so that Holly can automatically identify the right people across a database of public profiles. We have 750 million profiles that we can tap into, and automatically engage with these people across your channels. So the messages will be sent in your name. These are hyper-personalized messages that also reference each other. Like, it feels really as if somebody took the time and effort to try and connect with you. And yeah, that we do that basically automatically. We can integrate with your ATS so that, like, in your bullhorn or in your, that automatically as a new position gets put live, that it gets gets created in our system and automatically linked to the right recruiter, and then automatically instrumented so that you can basically wake up to a pool of interested candidates that are coming back to you after reaching out to them.
Does the outreach, is that something that the recruitment company would design, like a sequence? Do they write the messages, or do they more provide the remit and then Holly designs the best way to outreach?
Holly comes with really strong defaults, but there's a lot of value in telling Holly how you want the sale to be done. It's basically, you can think of it as a big prompt where, like, you can prompt her to send connection requests, you can prompt her to send emails, and you can tell her, like, hey, be casual, or no, like, this is the finance industry, like, be slightly more formal. Use this as like the salary as a sales argument, or no, don't talk about salary, like, people in this industry don't make a lot of money, you need to do it, it's a non-profit, you need to do it for the mission. Like, those are the types of things that you can make explicit in, like, when telling Holly how to sell the position. And then she'll do that really creatively. You can give her actually a lot of creative freedom, where you say, like, just write a great email, or you can say, like, no, fill in this template, where you can say, hey, first name, and then you can do between brackets opening, like, catchy opening sentence that references their last 2 jobs. And Holly will fill that in and then continue writing the rest of your template word for word. You can do, say, like, crazy things where you tell Holly, like, because she has the full context of the person, the job, about you, you can say, like, do it, like send the message in the presumed native language of the candidate, where Holly would then look at the candidate and say like, for instance, in Belgium, here in the UK, slightly less relevant, but in Belgium, we have 3 official languages. Just by looking at where they went to high school, their name, like where they're based, you can make a judgment as to like, okay, most likely this person will speak English, like Dutch, and reach out in Dutch, which is very cool, because you basically get like a multilingual sourcer that spends time like creating individual campaigns for every candidate. Something that now, thanks to GPT, people can start to imagine relatively. There's some mistrust, and people feel like, okay, in the beginning, I don't necessarily want to blindly start sending out these campaigns, which is why she generates them, and then you can come and have a look and approve them and send them. But after a while, people start trusting her, and just tell her to find people and reach out, which is really cool.
That does sound really cool. We were talking about Clay last week and the idea of looking up, and we've started to use it at the Leap, but we use it to build like prospect lists and things like that. And then within that, you can, pull specific fields to create a AI message. But it sounds like with Holly, this is all automated and all just running without that, pulling the data, creating the prompt, putting it into an email marketing tool.
Exactly.
So does it go, so you can connect your LinkedIn, can it send emails too? Is Holly doing that? Does she switch between, like if there's no response on LinkedIn, does she then turn?
Yeah.
Wow. She sounds fab. We all need a Holly.
You can tell her to switch. You can, she plays, like she can execute that multi-channel, because candidates appreciate it and feel like, people ignore you because they have other things going on, right? And it's hard. But if you can manage to reach them and reach them multiple times, then the chances on the second or third or fourth interaction of them converting are large. And you already made the investment of trying to like vet them and like prioritize them, gather their contact details. Might as well like to try a couple times. That doesn't, or let's say that plays a bit again in the whole story of like the agent to agent. I do believe that with AI and those like the Clays of this world and the Hollies of this world, we are moving to a world in which like everybody gets like a tsunami of interactions that are hyper personalized. But after a while, even that becomes irrelevant, right? If like now today, people still feel like, personalized, like a really personal message. That means something to me, but I'm doubting it will still 10 years, like 5 years from now. If every tool that like everything, if ChatGPT can send messages to people automatically, like then maybe that will lose relevance, and then it will start to matter like where people place their trust to filter. And that's where I believe the agents, like the agent to agent comes in. And that's both for companies and for candidates, right? Some of our clients drown in inbound applications, and we actually, when Holly's integrated in your ATS, Holly can help filter like inbound with the same logic that she would approve to filter outbound, like decide who to reach out to. There we believe that people, like companies, will help or rely on agents to help filter signal from noise on the inbound side. And will rely on agents to execute certain repetitive tasks like outreaching. And same for candidates, right? Like candidates nowadays in their inbox, they get, especially if you're like a software developer in London, for instance, you get inbound or messages or in-mails from recruiters all the time. People will rely on agents to filter out like what is it that I should actually be looking at. We have like the equivalent of that. An old school protocol is like spam filtering in your mailbox. That will become a lot more sophisticated, and you'll be able to instruct basically your filters to say like, hey, I'm not really looking for a job, so don't really bother me. But if somebody can find me a job that is closer to home back in Belgium, where I would make at least this amount, and I would not be managing teams because I want to remain an individual contributor, then bother me. That is something that today you can't. LinkedIn doesn't do, like your spam filter doesn't do, but I anticipate in the very near future you'll be able to do.
That's an interesting idea, isn't it? So, does Holly make outbound calls as well?
No.
Not
Like,
yet.
no.
No.
Also, like it's like making like there's a couple of channels like that I know like some recruiters do it like and actually very successfully.
What, we're using AI? Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
or just calling. You know, like the principle of like gathering someone's phone number.
I think it's much harder than it used to be to get through, though, isn't it?
Exactly,
I
it's
think.
much harder, and also like using AI to call is illegal in a lot of like especially in the States it is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's during the last, I think the midterm elections last time with there were AIs calling as if they were President Biden
Right.
with really good deep fake voices. And as soon as the executive branch in the US saw that, they made it like they updated the Telephone Protection Act, so instantly it became illegal to make outbound voice calls, even with your own voice. So you have to have someone's opt-in to be able to do that. And that's again the argument we were discussing earlier about like having consent from someone and an existing prior relationship with somebody makes it such that you can do that. But you can't out of the blue call candidates with AI. Some of the new things we're working on, like voice is an important element, but you can only do it in a process where like you manage to get consent and people are contextually aware as to what's happening. Because those phone calls have become really good. Like thanks to OpenAI's real-time API, you can now have conversations with people that are impressive. So it's definitely coming, but for like outbound, whether it's candidates or leads, like I would urge everybody, and especially when talking to vendors there, it's like, ask those questions about compliance and regulatory approvals. Not that I'm saying I tend to operate under like, as a startup founder, like don't ask for too much permission, but there's obviously things, if they're explicitly illegal, don't do them. Right?
That's a good advice.
That's to be a good operating principle. Yeah.
Has anyone ever tried to use it for B2B outreach?
Oh yeah, I get that question all the time. Like, people want to use it for sales a lot. We tell them that because like there's sales agents out there. I'm thinking like there's 11x, there's Artisan, there's AI SDR. There's a couple of platforms that feel very similar, and we were joking earlier, right? That recruiters are actually salespeople. So you could, but the devil is in the detail. Like we know the hiring space. Like we want to sell like in that realm. So that is where we focus our time and effort. The differences lie in like whether you engage across personal emails or work emails. Like people don't want to be contacted on their personal email for sales. And the inverse, like for job opportunities, people generally don't appreciate it if you contact them on your current jobs.
Yeah.
You like the vetting for us, like, it's about the person and their history versus like if you sell, it's more about the company and their position in the company. So it's in the subtleties, but we focus on the integrations with ATS systems and not CRM systems. We focus on the person, not the company. So. But yeah, a lot of people like the outbound dynamics are fairly similar. So we have a lot of people that I see when I look at the usage that people try and do both. Obviously, you're free to use our product as you see fit, but it's explicitly designed for
it makes sense. That way. Yeah,
and it is tough, right, in the market. And I know obviously as a relatively young person, like sitting here and talking about like, okay. You need to keep your costs down and be lean and like this will drive productivity. It's true. It's never going to be easy. But I do believe that this is the only way forward. I was yesterday at an ethical event, ethical AI event, where we were discussing like, okay, the impact of AI on jobs. Fascinating topic, but in my mind, there's just no way backward, right? If we know that your job can be automated in an efficient way, then learn how to automate yourself and become the leader in that, right? And I know that is also easily said, and that we won't need, like every individual contributor will not need to become like an AI expert, but at the same time, I do believe that the firms that invest in this will be the ones that will thrive tomorrow. So it's definitely what we should be doing. And one of the things that I do believe is a bit bollocks is like the companies or the founders like myself that build AI technologies that then say like, we're not here to replace you, we're here to augment you. That is true. Like my aim is to make any one of like or joint customers, like every individual contributor, like 10 times more productive, which means that like, yeah, either they will, and I wish them that very much, right, that they can do 10 times more business, but it can equally just mean that like for the same amount of business, they can like only get like significantly less headcount. So that's just the truth of what it means to sell productivity.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see a glimpse into where the market's going to go, and the fact that the US is already ahead in that will hopefully motivate some of our listeners, which are most likely to be here in Europe, to explore the opportunities. But thanks so much for chatting. It's been so good, and for showing the product. It's really exciting, and perhaps we can do it again in a year and see where it's
next
moved
time
to.
We can have Holly on the couch.
On the couch. Yeah, like an avatar.
No, it was lovely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.